Hey guys, so today we're going to be working on a new concept that makes use of the properties that we studied in our previous videos. So we've talked about the trigonometric functions, we've talked about sine, we've talked about cosine, and we've talked about tangent, and we're not going to worry too much about the secondary functions, the cosecant, secant, and cotangent. We're going to worry about these three, and we're going to discuss two properties that you can use after you've mastered these original three functions. The first one is called the law of sines, and the second one is called the law of cosines. So these two things are a bit lengthier in terms of the formulas, but these allow you to use the properties of sine and cosine in any triangle. So it doesn't need to have a right angle specifically anymore. So we're going to begin with the law of sines, and I'm going to tell you what it is and show you how you can use it. And then once we finish that, perhaps what I'll do is I will give you some questions you can try, and we'll talk about the law of cosines as well. But we'll start with the law of sines. Now, when I was learning this in school, we just called this sine law, and the law of cosines was cosine law. So you can call it either or. I might write both on your tests/exam, whatever. But yeah, so we're going to start off by talking about the law of sines, or sine law. So basically, let's say you have a triangle where none of the angles have to be 90 degrees, just any triangle, okay? And for simplicity's sake, we're not going to use theta, alpha, beta. We're not going to use Greek letters to name the angles. We're just going to use regular letters. We're going to use A, B, and C. Okay, so draw a triangle that looks something like this. So you've got angle A, angle B, and angle C. Alright, now we're also going to name the sides as follows. Side A, so lowercase a, is going to be opposite the triangle from angle A. Okay, you see how I've done that? So the side that's not touching angle A is called side A, small a, okay? Similarly, for B, angle B is made up by this side and this side, so we're going to call the last side, the one that's not touching the angle, little b. Okay, so that's side B. And then for angle C, this side and this side make up angle C, so this side farthest away from it is going to be side C. Okay, so when you've got a triangle like this, you're ready to see the law of sines. And basically the way it works is sine of angle A divided by the length of side A is equal to the sine of angle B divided by the length of side B, which is also equal to the sine of angle C. I'm going to have to scrunch this in there. The sine of angle C divided by the length of side C. Okay, so this is sine law, the law of sines. So basically, you probably won't ever need all three of these. You'll only ever need to go like this far. Sine A over A equals sine B over B. But basically, if you know this angle and this side, you can figure out this ratio, the sine of that angle using your calculator, divided by the length of the side will give you some ratio. Now for these, all you would need is one piece of information. Either you'd need the angle or the side, and then you could use this information from over here to calculate the answer. Okay? To calculate the answer for the missing piece of information. So I'll give you an example. So this is the law of sines. You can write this down. This is all you really need. If you want to add in sine C and side C, you're more than welcome to. But basically, here's how it's going to work. So let's say angle A is 45 degrees, okay? And let's say angle C is 60 degrees, okay? And we'll say that side A, little a, has a length of 10 units, 10 centimeters, okay? So we've got side A has a length of 10 centimeters, angle A is 45 degrees, and angle C is 60 degrees. Okay, so if we write out our sine law, then we get sine A over little a is equal to sine C over little c. We're not really interested in B right now, okay? So we just want to figure out what on earth is going on with C, okay? With side C, we want to figure out how long it is. So we know angle A is 45 degrees, so let's fill that in. We get sine 45 over the length of side A. The length of side A is 10 units, so we've got over 10, is equal to sine C. Now angle C is 60 degrees, so we get sine of 60 degrees divided by the length of C. And that's what we're trying to figure out. The length of side C is what we're looking for. So this is what we're at right now, okay? Sine 45 over 10 is equal to sine 60 over something, and that something is what we're looking for. Okay, now sine of 45 degrees, you can plug this into your calculator if you wish. Sine of 45 degrees, right here, is, I believe, 1 over root 2. 1 over the square root of 2. Okay? And sine of 60 degrees is the square root of 3 divided by 2. Like so. Okay? So this is what we're working with. We've got 1 over root 2 right here, and we've got root 3 over 2 right there. So I'm going to rewrite that up here, I guess. So I'm taking this line, I'm writing it up at the top so we can keep moving. So sine 45 is 1 over root 2. So we've got 1 over root 2, 1 over the square root of 2, divided by 10. Now I can rewrite this because basically I have 1 over root 2 times, if I just move this over, then if I move sine 45 away from the fraction, I could have sine 45 times 1/10. You see what I'm saying? So you could have 1 over root 2 divided by 10, or if I just move this over, I could have it as 1 over root 2 times 1 over 10. Okay? And what that basically lets us do is that lets us rewrite this as 1 divided by 10 times the square root of 2. Okay? And this equals, so that's all just this side right here, okay? So that's 1 over 10 root 2 is this right here, okay? Now we need the other side. Sine of 60 degrees, we said, is root 3 over 2 divided by c, little c. Now what I can do is I'm going to rewrite this just a little bit. If I have root 3 over 2 divided by c, I can actually write that as root 3 over 2c. Okay, so it's basically the same as doing root 3 over 2 times 1 over c is basically what I've done. If you're not sure, let me know, but this is what you get. So you do a little bit of that simplification, and you can rewrite this as root 3 divided by 2c. Okay, that's what we've got. So we need to figure out what little c is. Now, it's always harder if it's in the denominator, so what I can do, maybe what I will do, is I can flip both fractions. So I'll move this up to the top and this down to the bottom, and I'll move this up to the top and that down to the bottom. And so what that lets me do, what that gives me is, well, on the left side, because we've got a 1 in the numerator, I can just write this as 10 root 2. And I don't really need to write over 1, because that doesn't change anything. So I get 10 root 2 equals 2c over root 3. So I just had to flip it. Okay? Now my next step is, I don't want this 2 and this root 3 here. So my first step is I'm going to multiply both sides by the square root of 3, because if I do that, then I can get rid of it from over here. Those two would cancel. But then that leaves me over here with a 10 times root 2 times root 3 equals 2c. That's what we have, okay? Now, root 2 times root 3, if I'm doing this right, you're allowed to just call that root 6. 2 times 3 is 6, so you could simplify that if you wish. And what that lets you do is write it as 10 times the square root of 6. So we've got 10 times the square root of 6 is equal to 2c. But I don't want 2c, I only want 1c, so I got to divide both sides by 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5, so I get 5 times root 6 equals c, which is just some number. You don't need to write this as a decimal. This is probably the most correct way to write down your answer, so you don't have to worry about changing the square root into a decimal. 5 times the square root of 6 equals the length of side C. So this length over here is 5 times the square root of 6 units, okay? So it could be centimeters or whatever. So that's what we've got there. Now, if we wanted to, we could continue and figure out side B and angle B. We can figure out angle B very easily. So if you look, we've got a triangle, and it's going to have 180 degrees on the inside. So we've got angle A plus angle B plus angle C is going to equal 180 degrees. We already know that. But we know angle A is 45, and we know angle C is 60, right? So that right there accounts for 105 degrees. So we know that it's going to be 105 degrees plus angle B equals 180. And if you do the math, you'll get that B equals 75 degrees. Your next step from there would be to apply the sine law again with either angle A or angle B, either angle A or angle C, and use it with angle B to figure out side B. So I would just get you started on this, and if you want to try to finish it off on your own, then you can, and if you have any problems, let me know. But basically, I would use angle A and side A just because that information was all given to me. I wouldn't use this just in case I made a mistake. I don't want to be using my own wrong information. So I would suggest that you use the information that's given to you in the question. So you need both pieces of information, the angle and the side. You were given angle C, but you had to figure out side C. So I would go with using angle A and side A because you were given both of those quantities. So you'd have sine A over A is equal to sine B over B. And we're trying to find out what little b is. Sine A is going to be the same thing that it was before, which is 1 over root 2. And that's angle A, and side A is 10 centimeters or 10 units or whatever. And then sine B you could calculate with a calculator because you know the value of the angle, so you just need to do sine of that number, and it'll give you this quantity right here. Okay, so hopefully that's all making sense. I know I went a little bit quickly, But I hope this is making sense. This is just an intro to sine law and cosine law. We'll work more with them in future videos, and maybe I'll get a worksheet out to you guys. I'll see about that. But this is how things are looking right now. So sine law we've covered. This is how it works. You can use sine law to calculate the side length if you know the angle, or the angle if you know the side, as long as you have both pieces of information for another pair, angle and side. And then you can use the law that there's 180 degrees in a triangle to figure out the last angle, and then use sine law again to figure out the last side. Of course, if it happens to be a right triangle, you could use the Pythagorean theorem to figure out the length of that side, but if it's not, then you need to do it this way. Alright, so hopefully that makes sense. If you guys have any questions, leave a comment. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video.